Thank you for joining us for the Cannabis Retail Marketing in the Digital Era. This is being moderated by Michael Zaitsev. He's been a longtime friend of the Expo and me, and I'm very happy that he's here. I've seen Michael build organizations and associations, and I've seen him grow now to be an educator, and I'm really proud of you, Michael. So good luck to you with that. But Mike has a very wonderful bio. I'm going to give you the shortened version. You'll get to know him during the session, and he's going to have everyone talk a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to let them dive into the session as soon as possible. This is really an exciting session. Mike is often known as Mike Z. You still want us to call you Mike Z after all of this education that you're going, you're a big academic director now at LIM College.
Professor Z.
Oh, Professor Z, all right, okay. I just wanted to know where we stood on this. All right. So Professor Z is a best-selling author, an educator, and creative leader in the cannabis community. He serves as the academic director at LIM College, where he spearheaded the launch of New York's first accredited bachelor's and master's programs in the business of cannabis. Mike authored the Cannabis Business Book and founded High New York, one of the world's largest cannabis education and networking groups, renowned for its fun and impactful events that connect industry professionals. And I'm going to leave it to you, Mike, Professor Mike, to take it from here. And thank you to all the panelists. I know every one of you, and I really have a lot of respect for all of you. And I think the audience is going to fall in love with all of your professional ideas and outlook on marketing. Every one of them is a great marketer and really has experience in the field and has lived through challenges and is watching how new challenges will emerge and be solved even with this rescheduling that's happening around us. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful intro. I'm blushing up here. And can we just give Christine and the whole team a round of applause for the 10th annual CWCBA Expo? I feel really fortunate to have been here for pretty much all of those years. Kind of crazy how time flies when you're having fun. Well, I want to dive right in, so I'm just going to ask everyone to introduce themselves so the audience can know that we got the heavy hitters here and the real deal. So why don't we just start over here to my left and go onward.
Thank you, Professor. I'm Ed Keating. I'm the co-founder and chief data officer of Cannabis Media. We started 10 years ago, and we track everything about licenses and have been doing that consistently. So our products are used for sales, marketing, research, and compliance. And this was the first conference I came to 10 years ago before we started Cannabis Media. We came down from Connecticut in the train and realized that, yeah, that was the very first one we went to. So very, very glad to be here.
Hey everyone, my name is Solange Burnett. I am lovingly known as the weed auntie here. And that brand, well, basically what I do is facilitate connection on the B2B side as well as the B2C. At Weed Auntie, it's a lifestyle, experience, content kind of platform. And Irvin, we're all about the exchange of sales performance data so that brands have the insights that they need to succeed, and they're not doing the, spray and pray method, and they're able to get the information. We know that retailers, folks are so busy, so to automate that and make it efficient for folks to get that is our goal, and to create communication in an industry that is rooted in secrecy, and lead with transparency and trust.
Check. Hi, I'm Mike Ballard with LeafWire. LeafWire, for those of you who have heard of LeafWire, we're really best known for our social media platform, leafwire.com, by the way, LinkedIn of cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, and free for anyone to join. But we're really, not as much on the retail side. We're really more of a B2B digital marketing agency. So really what we specialize in is really digital, primarily email campaigns, retargeting, lead generation, and our market is primarily ancillary services providers of all kinds throughout the industry. Thank you.
Hello, John Lowen from Surfside. Surfside is a ad technology stack that supports retailers, brands, and agencies across the cannabis industry, along with other industries. From a retailer perspective, we're really focused on utilizing customer data, like data from a point of sale or an e-com platform, and then helping our retailers use that information to understand their customers and then run targeted campaigns, and then offer brands the ability to buy sponsored product listings and sponsored ad units within the retailer store and from an online and in-store experience to have exposure at the point of purchase.
Awesome. Thank you all for being with me here. I'm excited to dive in. So I'm going to ask each of you, from your perspective in working with clients, what are some of the most effective methods and platforms to promote cannabis brands, products, and services? And why don't we go in reverse order? So start with you, John.
Well, I would obviously say Surfside is a really great platform for that. I think that like when we started our business in 2018, our focus wasn't necessarily on entering and creating like a cannabis ad tech solution. For us, it was really about we wanted to create an ad tech platform that was simplify the existing kind of modern way of buying advertising. And for a retailer specifically, you've got data sitting in a point of sale system, you've got people transacting online and visiting your website, you have a CRM and you have loyalty, you've got people visiting your store who don't really have any data footprint that you know of. And so our goal was, how do we take all of these different customer touch points across that retail environment from an online and offline perspective, make it very easy for you as a retailer or a business for that matter, collect all that information, understand how customers are engaging in the physical world and the digital world, and then make decisions from a marketing standpoint. So that's really the core goal that we wanted to solve for with our technology. I know there are a lot of other technologies that help solve for this, but more often than not, it's using a customer data platform that then works with a data onboarding platform, and then you then pipe that information to a media buyer or a demand-side platform. And so you get a lot of acronyms and a lot of platforms that make things maybe too complex for what you really want to do is just find someone who wants to buy your product, and you want to just increase sales, and you want to get your ads in front of the right people. So we tried to simplify that as much as possible. But yeah, I'll leave you guys some time as well on this as well, so I don't over promote.
Okay, yeah, I think one of the principles that I always advocate, whether I'm talking about an individual trying to market themselves or whether it's a company trying to market yourself, it's really important to be diverse in your approaches. There's no one platform. People use the word platform, that a lot of times that refers to social media. So certainly LinkedIn, LeafWire, Instagram and Facebook, as we all know, have their limitations as far as what words you can use and all that. So yes, so social media, Surfside, Cannabis media, all these different ways are all important. And I think one of the most important principles that we advocate to our clients is not to focus necessarily on any one thing. A lot of times people will, they will put all of their marketing or ad budget into trade shows, for instance. Obviously, trade shows are important. We're all here today. But that's not the only thing. You can't rely on that. So it's really important to have a diversified portfolio, data-driven, as well as there is some value in spray and pray as well, I would suggest. So all of these different things are important because you never really know where that customer is going to come from.
As a content creator, I think that social media is an incredible opportunity. Although, yes, there are restrictions. There are folks who really built their platform on YouTube. I have a significant amount of followers on Instagram, and I partner with retailers. I see travel agency in the house, so want to shout y'all out. Love you. Thank you for supporting and collaborating with me. Definitely, I love to amplify the brands and retail operators that are doing good things. So figuring out beyond just like, oh, come to my shop, how can you activate in experiences as well? I create and host a lot of experience in the space that's rooted in well-being and just connection, and have a lot of folks that are followers that are also influencers. So a lot of brands, just by partnering with me, or retailers will get like organic reach from folks who come to those events, who are excited about their product, who are excited about the retail operators. They just want to show that they're a part of the culture. So a lot of talking about the data, we don't have a lot of data around like how that is working. A lot of times people are looking at, platforms like Leafly or so on and being able to say, oh yeah, well they're searching and they're doing, but how did they get to Leafly in the first place? Who was the person that sparked their curiosity, or what was the activity that sparked their curiosity to walk into your shop to search for your brand? So I do think content creators and experiences are a great opportunity, and supporting people who are in the space out there, part of the culture, is a really great way to market your brand. And yeah, Irvin actually isn't a platform that is about advertising or marketing, but it is something that you can get into and actually see how is your product doing in each shop that you're a part of, or that you're on the shelves of, and for retailers to have insights and say, okay, well maybe pre-rolls aren't serving me here. People are really buying edibles, like understanding where all of these different product categories are landing with the community that's actually shopping in your store.
So our customers are often using our platform to reach license holders, like many of you. They want to put out a message, they want to sell, they want to reach you. And we had to build that platform because in the early days of this industry, MailChimp would kick you off. And I think we got kicked off, we had clients who had gotten kicked off. So we essentially built our own MailChimp and put it right into our database services. So we sort of wrapped it around so that people could have a platform that they would not get kicked off of. Some do spray and pray, hopefully not too many. A lot of that has seemed to be on the wane, but it's a way for our part of the industry, ancillaries, the folks who have booths here, to reach out into license holders and try and get hold of them. We've also tried to layer in other data like social media so that they can find somebody's Instagram page. Like we've learned from our customers that if you're trying to reach cultivators, the only place you may find them is on Instagram because everybody wants to show what they've grown. So that is a way to find them and connect. So a lot of it is sort of these subtleties of how can you reach out to people and be thoughtful. And we've tried our best on the B2B side, sort of like Mike, to create a platform that is ideally effective for both the senders and the receivers.
Awesome. So a couple of themes I heard was to use diverse platforms, especially cannabis-friendly ones, experiment, but try to be data-driven when possible, and work with content creators and event producers that already have the audience you're looking for. So it's a couple of themes I heard, and I wanted to touch on, since it came up a couple of times, obviously there's restrictions around cannabis on all the major platforms to some extent. So how do you help clients navigate those hurdles and avoid some of the common pitfalls so they're not getting banned or put in Instagram jail or any of that not fun stuff? And I'll start with you, Ed.
What we've tried to do is help our clients learn how to email well. It's not like the old days where you could get a list in Excel, hook it up to your Microsoft Outlook, and hit mail merge and just send it all out. I mean, you can still do that, not advised. We've really tried to guide our customers on how to segment and how to be really smart about sending out that message, segmenting their lists so that whatever they're doing is actually quite effective. And this has become more important as companies like Google, Yahoo, Microsoft that handle so much mail are really working hard to make sure that people are only receiving emails that they want. And if you're not careful, you can land in spam jail. And then you may wreck your domain and you have to remediate it, and that takes time. And then you don't want to get in that situation where your CEO's emails internally are getting flagged as spam because you decided to send 10,000 emails a day of the same message out. So we've actually built a whole email marketing academy that's free to help people understand those nuances and basically get certified. And here are the ways that we have found to market effectively, at least on the B2B side. But I think a lot of it probably plays over to the B2C side as well.
To avoid the pitfalls on social media, it is a dangerous, treacherous thing every time I open my Instagram app. It is so challenging to figure out ways, but at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to be creative, you know? Making short form videos that are catchy with good music, not just being overt and showing flower only. Like, how can you partner with people that spark creativity and curiosity in the community that you're trying to attract to your shop? So for me, I make sure also that I am partnering with spaces that are that are more traditional, and doing collaborative posts so that I'm reaching broader audiences than myself. Currently, I work with Soho House and the Moxie hotels here in New York to curate content in their spaces, all rooted in cannabis. So when we are advertising for the event, I make sure that, you know, Bar Lab, which is their rooftop space, and the Moxie Williamsburg, and myself, and whatever brand are all collaborating on the content that's being posted so that we're reaching all of our audiences and not just coming out of mine, or, because so many times folks like us who are content creators, we get that restricted profile and it's like, oh, only 18 plus can look at this. Or you start looking at your engagement numbers, you're like, why am I going down? Yes, I am in Instagram jail right now. They are censoring me. But I'm really hopeful that with descheduling, that there will be a change in that, and hopefully we will be able to freely post and say weed, cannabis, like, without getting locked away. It is so wild that it is censored to just say a plant.
Yeah, I have a friend who was banned from Facebook for using the word tincture in a post. That's when I really thought, okay, things have gone too far.
And the AI stuff now, it's terrible. They're catching us everywhere.
And your comment also made me, reminded me, I think it was a Weed Maps ad for the Super Bowl where it was a broccoli. Yes. The guy had like a broccoli suit on. So, you know, there's definitely a challenge, a positive challenge to try to communicate your message in a way that won't get caught. But I will say that for us, I mean, certainly that's why LeafWire exists, was to create that safe space. You know, we also find that there's, you know, you'll see a lot of, shall we say, traditional companies, larger companies that have been successful in traditional markets, non-cannabis markets, and they don't really want to advertise the fact that they're targeting the cannabis industry. So, you know, that, again, these are reasons really why LeafWire exists. LinkedIn, actually, we advertised on LinkedIn a lot up until a couple of years ago. They've actually started to reject anything drug-related, any kind of drug-related content. So it was about 2 years ago that we started getting rejected. But of course, that's not to say that LinkedIn is really hostile to the space, because there's probably 100 hemp and cannabis LinkedIn groups, some of which are very vibrant, and obviously we're really big LinkedIn fans. But yeah, I think that this is where I will say that for us and for a lot of our customers, and definitely the LeafWire community is very much about education. This market, we're hungry for education, and of course this really comes from Schedule 1, the lack of U.S.-based medical research, just the endocannabinoid system itself, we're largely ignorant of, especially in this country. All the best studies that have been completed to this date are all international. But we also find that a lot of people, and perhaps some of the, I'm sure a lot of people in this room, in this audience, haven't necessarily started a business before, don't know how to be an entrepreneur. How much should I be investing in? How much should my marketing budget be? Do I actually need a marketing budget? And the answer is yes. And the other answer is there's so much. I mean, I consider myself sort of a serial entrepreneur since I was 10 years old, selling greeting cards door to door. But entrepreneurialism is a constant education, and I think that's the biggest challenge of entrepreneurs is to be open and in discovery all the time. So we really try to emphasize that in terms of advertising campaigns, of focusing on what do you want your customer to know, and are you asking questions that someone might say, oh, I don't know the answer to that, or I didn't even think to ask that question. What is it that the audience doesn't know they don't know? So that's another kind of angle that can be really helpful and provides a tremendous service to the community at large.
I don't love talking about compliance. I think we shouldn't really talk about it as much as we do from a marketing standpoint. I think it puts a bad connotation on advertising in the space. I think you can pretty much the first thing I say to people when they come into the space from another market and they're the CMO of whatever company, I say just run your same playbook. If worked for you for L'Oreal, let's run that and let's do that. You shouldn't change up your marketing strategy. You can do everything you think you can do in the space. Compliance is just understanding. Everyone here has been talking about inventory, right? And so inventory. Facebook and Instagram are inventory sources. They, as a business, have decided that they don't want to allow cannabis. But there are other inventory sources that do allow it. So our recommendation is let's focus on inventory sources. The same people who visit Instagram visit other sites. We can find them on that inventory where there aren't restrictions. And so when we talk about plans, we talk about hey, let's plan a space where you're going to be able to run the appropriate technology, have tracking, have measurement, have audiences, so you're not targeting people who are not over the age of 21. But we always say compliance is easy, performance is hard, right? And so we need to focus on performance, and we need to focus on the output of the campaign, because compliance is really just following a set of really distinct rules, and that's really easily accomplished in our opinion.
John, I had a question in terms of compliance, and it's a general compliance set of rules that many of us are now having to worry about, which is privacy information like CCPA in California, Virginia, Connecticut, and others, where suddenly the data that we may have may be something that's regulated in a very different way on a state-by-state basis. Are you guys having to deal with that at all? Or we haven't yet, but we're mindful of it.
Yeah, our last company that we had was more global, and so we would work with Disney, and we had to work with GDPR, which is the European privacy laws that are a lot more stringent than the privacy laws we hear in the U.S. So when we built Surfside in 2018, we built with the assumption that a lot of those privacy laws would come to the United States, which some of them have. CCPA is a really good example of that. So the easiest way to explain it, and this is not my area of expertise within our business, but we definitely look at consent management and privacy as a component of the business. We tend to deal with first-party data sets, which is people are opting, when you visit a website, for example, you're opting into the terms and conditions of that website. When you download an app, you are agreeing to the terms and conditions of that. When you opt in for a newsletter, you're agreeing to the terms and conditions of that. Every website, generally speaking, especially in California, should have the ability to control your further consent management. A lot of the sites don't. But like if at a basic level, you want to make sure like you are talking about what you're doing with cookies, what you're doing with first-party data, what you are like. Make sure that your website terms and conditions, when people are giving you an email as part of their CRM, as they're logging their credit card or their license with you in order to make a purchase, there are components that you want to make sure that you're covering, and legal counsel would probably be the best person to sit up here and talk to you about that. But there are definitely some very easy things that you can be putting in your terms and conditions of what you're doing, using that data for, and then you need to just make sure that the basic stuff around that is just giving the consumer freedom to understand what you're collecting and then opting in and out of it. And there's a lot of tools that help facilitate that.
Thanks.
So I'm going to share a quick cautionary tale because, John, you said compliance is easy. And it's easy when you're like these people who are experts in this and doing it day in, day out. But when I was young and naive in like 2015, I thought I could do Facebook paid ads and just promote like articles that I wrote that were published on Forbes and Entrepreneur. And I thought, no big deal. Like, yes, they talk about cannabis, but this is educational content. It's news, no problem. I got banned from Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising. And I would appeal, several times a year I would try to appeal with their system. This was 2015. I just this year finally was able to get back to being allowed to advertise. So the moral of the story is get professional help if compliance and advertising are not your core competency, then definitely work with people like our esteemed panelists that can help you avoid a several year hiatus from one of the major platforms or two of the major platforms. John, you mentioned performance, so I want to dig into that a little, and I want to ask everyone about demographics, trends, some of the data, and some of the insights that you're seeing from all of the campaigns that you're working on. So maybe if you could speak to me a little about demographic trends you're seeing in the cannabis market and how business owners can use these trends or use demographic data in general to create campaigns that perform. So I'll start with you, John. We'll go this way.
Yeah. So like when it comes to demographic data, to answer that specifically, I think that when we look at it from a perspective of, hey, am I underserving a certain demographic or market? Is there an opportunity for us, like are we over-indexing for males 35 to 55, and we think that there's this population of females 35 to 45 based off of our market data that we are not servicing, and that could be another 10% in sales that we think we can attract to our store. And so we kind of look at it from that perspective of, hey, what is the population size? What is the addressable market for us as a retailer or you as a brand? And be able to look at it from that perspective. When a campaign goes live, demographics and it's another parameter similar to like, are you using an iPhone or an Android? Or do you like flower edibles? And it becomes one component of a larger ecosystem that we can optimize against. We're always going to prioritize, like when it comes to performance in a campaign, like who's purchasing, right? And what are they purchasing? What are the activities that, like, did they abandon cart? Did they visit my website? Do they share the attributes of maybe a really high valuable customer? And demographics will be a component of that for sure, but it also could be household income, it could be proximity to a store, it could be working location, home location. We know convenience to be a really big factor from a retail perspective. But there are so many other different attributes that we would include as like maybe a priority or maybe a preference right now over demographic, just because there's not a ton of store or brand loyalty that exists in the industry yet. In our opinion, we think that there is a lot of deal shopping and convenient shopping and price shopping, and those tend to be bigger indicators of purchase. And I think we tend to weight those attributes a little bit more in some of the like profile like some of the effects or traits about you that might lead you to be more of a discount shopper or don't like to travel far distance type of shopper, if that helps.
Yeah, short answer. I mean, we're we're really more looking at industry sectors, where people are participating in the industry rather than individual demographic data. So I'll defer to the data people on that.
For me, what I have really noticed in this space is that we are over-creating and serving audiences that typically look like the owners of these businesses instead of digging into who is actually walking through the door, who is actually shopping for their parent, shopping for their disabled child, shopping for whatever it is. And women currently are, or at least 37% of women have admitted to being cannabis consumers. I definitely think that that number is low, and that a lot more actually utilizing the plant. Millennials are a huge category, and Gen Z is like right on their heels. So when you're creating campaigns and thinking about who you should be serving, or who you want to attract, I think that that is something that we need to think about. Cannabis has been, as a culture and what is promoted, very celebrity, masculine, and very hardcore, like get blasted, zooted type of energy. And that's not who we're serving. So I really do think that folks need to stop and reflect and not just create campaigns in their own image or who they would like to bring in, and actually look at the data and see who is purchasing, what they are buying, and how can you attract them. Yes, there are so many different platforms out there, but we also need to think about the curious folks, not the people who are deep in the cannabis space, who are gonna be on certain platforms. We're actually sitting in these circles of sameness, talking to each other, and it turns into this like siloed conversation and content game. And so, yeah, I think that we just really need to start to dig into the data around who is purchasing the weed, who's purchasing weed, why they're purchasing it. Are you a caregiver that is providing medicine? Are you somebody who just needs it for anxiety and you need to get through your day and you're having a little puff and then going back to your laptop? How are we utilizing it, and what is going to attract people to come to your space? Because I do think that, yes, there is no real loyalty to locations, but it is starting. There are people, when I ask them, oh, where do you shop? Like, again, folks are like, I love travel agency. I love housing work. Some people, like, they will make sure on their way to work, they stop in at Union Square and get off at that place, even if there is something in their neighborhood that's closer, because they like the experience, because the bud tenders are educated, because the space is welcoming and beautiful. So I think that's another thing. So many people just think weed sells itself. That's a total lie. And like spaces that look traumatic or are not really well designed, people will not repeat in coming in there. You want to come to a space that makes you feel safe, that people are educating you, and that you want to repeat and continue to go back because you know they're listening and they're not trying to like push whatever their favorite product is, and that also has your product available regularly. I think with Irvin, specifically diving into inventory management, one thing that I've noticed with folks, they will have products like out of stock for a long time because they didn't do good inventory planning. So I do believe for retailers to stay on top of those numbers, stay on top of like what's going on, what is selling, and what people want.
So we mostly focus on businesses, and over the last 10 years, as we've looked at the marketplace, we've come up with 3 market segments that we use internally, and they sort of echo what Solange just said in a way. So it's a bit reductive, but I think you'll get it when I say it. So for us, as we talk to people out in the exhibit hall, you get some that we call Cannabis. They're only in the cannabis business. That is their sole market segment. Then below them, you have Curious. Maybe they're in another industry, but this is one that they're trying out. And then finally, you get Clueless. They don't know what they don't know. And it's not a knock on them, they're just new to the industry, and every industry goes through this. But I think that's also true of people who are perhaps coming into stores for the first time, where they may fit in those buckets. And once again, it's a bit reductive, but it's memorable because time and time again, based on the questions that we get asked, we can figure out sort of where they fit in and how to respond. So, that's how we think of the market, at least some days.
So this panel is about retail marketing, after all. So I want to drill into retail a little more and ask you, from your perspectives, and maybe I'll do a 2-for-1 question here. How can dispensaries be smarter about deciding what products to sell and managing the inventory and assortment plan, all that? And on the flip side of this, how can brands do a better job of making the case to dispensaries to get that shelf space and get those repeat orders? And if anyone wants to jump in, feel free.
I can start. On the brand side, because when I see retail marketing, one of the biggest movements in advertising right now is retail media. And retail media is really, when you think about what's happening on Amazon and Walmart and them creating their own ad ecosystems on their sites, basically digital merchandising and creating sponsored product listings and allowing the CPG brands within those marketplaces to advertise within those environments. That's one of the bigger trends that we've seen just in advertising overall. It should be around 25% of the digital budgets by 2025 or now, so close. But that's something that we've been really focused on to support the brand marketing within the cannabis vertical, is being able to allow the brands to advertise where purchases are happening. So from an online perspective, that's being able to create sponsored listings, have your own product cards, have a banner within the checkout, have a banner up top or videos or native units, but it gives them a lot of different variety to be able to advertise where transactions are happening. And so rather than historically where you had to target someone on a BuzzFeed or USA Today and then drive them to a dispensary site or drive them to a demand, to a delivery partner, you were kind of that extra step away from the purchase. And you had to find the person who really wanted to purchase to begin with. And so now they are able to skip all those steps and reach people when they've already made a decision that they're ready to purchase. And then you can say, hey, this is, and then I know from my perspective, if I'm on Amazon and I search for an electric toothbrush, the first 5 rows are videos and ads that are sponsored. And hey, if they can sponsor these units and they've got money for advertising, I'm assuming they're probably better than the other 10,000 electric toothbrushes that are in the next 10 pages. So sometimes the user is becoming more normalized to this type of experience in their e-commerce environments, and I think bringing it to the cannabis industry will be a really big win for brands because they've really lacked a really strong output for marketing. So being able to advertise across their footprint is a big win for them. There's also real value to the retailers here because what we've seen is that the retailers have brands and wholesalers coming to them every day and say, hey, I want my products to be stocked on your shelves. And now they have the ability to say, and I will support it with a marketing campaign. I will support it with driving traffic to your site. I'll support it with helping promote the launch of the solution so it sells through quicker. And that allows them to continue to place orders. It allows them to understand if the product's going to sell through. And usually this is a really good relationship for the retailers and the brands to create this kind of partnership as we talk about providing products that we believe that will A, sell, B, be promoted, and C, help with incrementality of the business. But we find that to be a really strong avenue. We've been focusing on that for the last year at this point and have seen a lot of other companies in this space enter as well.
If I could, I would just remind everyone about going back to basics, the importance of what's the name of your brand. I don't know about you guys, but I see a lot of crazy names out there. And of course, sometimes it's sort of by necessity, and I think travel agency is a great example of that. Whereas that was really astute, really smart. But the thing is, now it's really important for the audience, the market, to be educated about what the travel agency actually does, right? So again, just not to forget about how important it is to have a compelling name, and then also to have the the artwork, the logo, the recognizable graphics, and all those things, which then points to uniquity, right? The whole concept of what sets you apart. Because yeah, how many different, you look at all, like these genetics, all the genetics that's out there, there's so many different strain names, right? But how do you differentiate yourself and set yourself apart is the most important thing of all, in my opinion. And then you're going to find all these different ways to get that word out there.
Can you repeat the actual question? 'Cause I feel like I have no idea.
How can dispensaries decide what products to sell, and how can brands do a better job getting shelf space?
Thank you. How can dispensaries? I really think leading into data is super important here, and also understanding what's selling in your particular geographical area, what people are interested in purchasing, because there's a lot of folks that have great, like, they're doing it from their heart space, you know? It's like, I want to support these specific brands, so I'm going to put them on my shelves for whatever reason. And then customers come in and they can't find what they want, so they're going to go to another shop. So I really think that leaning into tools like Irvin for inventory management, being able to do custom reporting, to dial into, again, what product categories are flying, what specific brands, because, for example, like a brand like Heirloom, I don't even know how many SKUs they have, but they have so many different products. You could fill an entire shop with just Heirloom. And if you go through it and you can see, all right, well, their Apple Crisp is selling, but this other beverage isn't. So let's make sure we have a lot of that beverage. Let's not just get all their beverages, all their gummies, all their whatever. So really using numbers and understanding what is selling, what is sitting, how long has it been sitting, and not having to stress out your inventory manager, having tools that are helpful so you can glean that information at a glance, and you have people who can easily digest that information and spread it to the folks who need to know. And same thing with brands. So our tool is both for retailers and brands. Brands pay, but for retailers it's free. And they're able to go in, and instead of having somebody, this is another thing I have to say, cannabis needs to get their business acumen up, and their tech acumen up. Folks are so interested in what's your phone number, what's your LinkedIn. I'm like, yo, do we not use email anymore? This is like a common business tool. Can we get back to like emailing, responding, looking at these things? And when you have 1 million emails coming through, because we know you're so busy, how do you get efficiencies through tools that will work for you, that are easy, that are not just gonna sit there, that you can open up and say, hey, you know, I see an alert. We have 30 days and there's only 10 of this SKU, and looking at the sell-through rate, we're probably gonna run out in the next 15 days. Like, you can actually forecast and plan and figure out what you should have on your shelves and do it in a transparent way. I think a lot of retailers are like cagey with this information, and you're only doing yourself a disservice. So being open, not being secretive, allowing this information to flow in a collaborative way, not a competitive way. Our tool is not about competitive insights. We're not BDSA. We are not headset that's gonna aggregate and is scraping. Like, we're directly integrated into your POS systems, so you are able to see in real time what's happening with products on your shelves, or as a brand, able to see what's happening on the various shelves of the different retailers you're currently on.
Awesome, thank you. So unfortunately, we only have a couple minutes left, and I still have like 15 questions, but I'm gonna open it up to the audience, and in the meantime, if anyone has any advice for entrepreneurs or future predictions given rescheduling or anything, you know, while we get the questions going, feel free to chime in.
I just have one quick point. As we've been looking at the marketplaces and the data, we started to add in data about unlicensed businesses as well as smoke and vape licenses. And no surprise to anybody here, but those numbers vastly outnumber legalized dispensaries. And we're all in this green bubble here at this conference. We get that. But most people, just think of substitutes and like, oh, I went to a dispensary. Probably didn't. So.
I also just want to say one thing. I've seen a lot in New York, again, on the business acumen side. Don't just hire your friends and family. It's really wild to see so many operators that it's like, and if your friends and family have the skill set, congrats, kudos, awesome. Hire everybody in your family. But you're setting yourself up to fail, even if you think you're like putting money into the pockets of your family. Do that later. Find them roles that make sense to them, but hire for acumen, hire for skill, hire for people who have been in the industry and have experience to do your social media, to do your inventory management and planning, to be the people who are on the front lines for you in all the different roles that you're hiring for. So yeah, that is just something, as I'm watching the New York industry come up as well as New Jersey, I'm just like, yo, no, this is bad.
We got two hands.
Yes, hello. It's like a two-part question for the panelists and the moderator. To the panelists, have you ever had clients or brands that when they post online on social media that they end up getting banned, and how do you go about the process and working them on recovering their social media accounts? And to the moderator, you mentioned that years later you was able to get your account, reestablished. I'm also kind of curious about how that process was like. Did they contact you out of the blue and say, okay, you're good to go years later? So I'm just kind of curious between them.
Yeah, I could answer real quick. I just did the standard process, and they rejected me for years and years and years, and then one day they just accepted, within 24 hours. So it was completely random in my experience.
It's scary. I do think, thankfully I have not had that experience, but I've seen many content creators and people in the business lose their Instagram account or have their account banned. Definitely you have to do all the appeals. If you can find somebody that you know at Meta, go through LinkedIn, see if you can get somebody who can put you in the position. I mean, I got, what's it called? It's certified or whatever they call it, years before you could buy it. And I think that was very helpful for me, just in them recognizing and being diverse about what you post. I feel like I go to genetics or breeders and all you do is all they are doing is showing off flower. Dude, you're gonna get banned. Be thoughtful about, again, and be creative about how you're posting so that you don't end up in Instagram jail. That is the best way to do it. Again, talking about travel agency, I'm over here pushing them hard. Look at brands that are doing a good job and see what you can replicate, what makes sense for you so that you don't end up in Instagram jail. And I'm banned on TikTok. I literally posted about CBD once and boom, and can never get that back.
Come to LeafWire. You'll never be banned there. At least not for weed or anything related to weed. You can use whatever those words you want, and we love you.
Thank you for doing this panel. It's very interesting. My question is, for new retailers who are kind of novices to promoting their own dispensary and/or products, what is likely to be their biggest and/or most expensive mistakes, and what should they be doing instead?
Excellent question. And tell us where your store is, so people in the audience, just take.
Arthur Ave, Bronx, New York.
Arthur Ave, Bronx, New York. See this man.
Italy.
Yeah. Oh, that was. Let us answer this question, and then we'll wrap up. Sorry. Uh-oh. They're not going to have me back for the 11th year. No. All right. Anyone want to answer that question? Great question. What are the costly mistakes to avoid if you're a new retailer looking to promote your store?
I think just if we're talking about marketing, you'll definitely get a lot of people who will push you to overspend. You just got to make sure you're doing something that you're comfortable with, right? Have real expectations. $1 doesn't convert. I talk about it like it's like you're working out or going on a diet. You don't instantly lose weight day one of your plan. So it takes time. Have patience and bank that cost into the patient. So I know we're talking about pray and spray, but like, you know, it doesn't need to be to that degree, but like, there will be a moment where your campaign learns, right? And there will be a moment where you have to ramp up. And so just bank that cost into like the expectation that maybe it's not profitable marketing for you until 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it may be. But have that conversation, set realistic expectations, and make sure that like the return that you expect aligns with the margin you need in order for it to be profitable.
Yeah, commit to a marketing professional, get good guidance, commit to marketing. That's the most important thing of all, I think.
I was just going to say, again, good hires. I think that like going back and having to reteach somebody because you had a poor hire in the first place, now you've wasted money spending on them, and now they're going to have to onboard and waste money on this new person. So I really think being thoughtful about your hiring, being diverse in your hiring so that people see all faces and want to come into your space, and they're reflected in the community that you're curating in your shop. That's also really important. I'm going to stop talking so Christine doesn't yell at us.
So I want to thank our panelists, and we have another great panel coming up in just a few minutes, so stick around. Make sure to connect with everyone on LinkedIn and on LeafWire and continue the conversation.
On Instagram. Hi, Solange.
All right.